And here we are. And we're live.
Yay, Mazel Tov.
Martin, we are live. Mazel Tov is right. So welcome everybody to another edition of the Children's Literature channel of the New Books Network. I'm Mel Rosenberg, your host, and I'm here with a spectacular author who I'm really honored to meet and to interview. Well, meet, I'm in Israel and you're in somewhere in Brooklyn. Are you in Brooklyn?
No, I'm in Florida right now.
Okay, but
I left Brooklyn. Brooklyn.
You brought your accent to Florida.
It's well, South Florida, everybody speaks like this. So it's like South Brooklyn.
Okay. So I'm here with Martin Lemelman, and we are celebrating, Mazel Tov, your wonderful new graphic book for kids, which is called The Miracle Seed. We both know that the illustrated children's books are miracles. So show us your miracle. And I'm going to tell the people that are listening to the podcast to run out and buy this book. The Miracle Seed, published by Martin Lemelman, who is the author and the illustrator. Recently published. Recently means just 2 months ago by Erdmans. And wonderful to have you. Wonderful to have you here, Martin.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So before we start, show us a few pages of your lovely, lovely book.
Okay. It's the book is, what intrigued me about this story is it goes back thousands of years, but it also brings it back into the present, where the Judean date palm was resurrected from reborn from extinction. A date palm and a date fruit that was not tasted for 1,000 years was tasted again. So to me, that was a true miracle. And in terms of the history of the Jewish people, it was even more of a miracle. It's almost like a parallel to how the Romans destroyed the temple, which is in the book, to the rebirth of Israel, to the thriving of Israel and the date palm.
Okay, and essentially, the story is based on a true scientific story, and it's incredible. So your story starts 2,000 years ago, picks up in recent modern day Israel, and it's incredible. But let's first of all talk about you a little bit. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your history. I think that writers and authors and illustrators like you who have managed to publish award-winning and much loved books as you have are miracles. So let's talk about the miracle of Martin Lemelman. Then we'll talk about the miracle of the dates.
Well, let me just I think one of the interesting things in terms of becoming an artist, I think I was an artist before I was a writer, was I lived, my parents were Holocaust survivors, and we lived in back of a candy store in Brooklyn, New York, in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn. And one of the things that I was not allowed to do was to play with some of the toys that my parents were trying to sell. But this, so I wouldn't ruin it, so I couldn't sell them. I could eat anything I wanted.
Hold on. So just to be very clear, you lived in the candy store that was your parents' candy store.
Right. My parents' candy store. We lived in 3 rooms the back of my parents' candy store with Schuyra. You know what Schuyra is in Yiddish? It's merchandise. Okay, so
Schuyra.
Schuyra, yeah, Schuyra. So it was like boxes of cardboard with all the stuff and the toys and the candy and everything. So even today, 70 years, 65 years later, when I smell cardboard, it brings me back to those times, because that's what my back of the candy store smelled like. So in any case, I was not allowed to play with the real toys that they were selling, but my parents bought this candy store, and it was on the bones of a candy store from the 1930s. And in that candy store, there were like shelves underneath, covered drawers that had old stuff that my parents couldn't sell. And in those shelves were dried up paints. Okay, there were tempera paints and old paint by number set paints, those kind of things. And I didn't know the difference between this kind of paint and that kind of paint. So I got some typing paper and some cardboard, and I started painting. And it was like magic. It was, probably when I was about 5 or 6 years old. And that was an amazing thing to me. And that's how I started really thinking about being an artist. It would take me into another world. My mother never was very happy with me doing that. She always wanted me to do good in school. And I did really well in school. I really was a great student, but she couldn't understand the painting. But one of her advice that I take till this day is she would say, Mata, don't finish.
Okay, we're going to have to wait for Martin to come back in. In the meantime, I'll tell you that it's difficult to be connected to South Florida these days. And I don't even know why, but we're going to wait a second for Martin Lemelman to come back and tell us about his miracle and the miracle seed. So, Martin, welcome back to the interview.
I'm really sorry. I don't know what's
life is fair in Florida.
Okay, I'm really sorry. I apologize. I don't know what's going.
It's okay. I told a joke while you were gone.
Okay, good. Okay.
No, I didn't, but I'll think of something if it happens again.
I'll tell some jokes.
Okay. I should have a list of jokes.
Okay.
No, you tell a joke if I fall off the radar.
Okay.
So we were talking about the miracle of the hidden, the long lost.
The paints. And so my mother said to me, Matel, if you're going to do paintings, don't finish. And I would do 6 paintings in a day. And so she would say, don't do 6 in a day. Take your time on one. And so until this day, I never finish something in one day. It's always like I'll do something and I'll leave something for tomorrow. And sometimes it takes me 2.5 years to do something. So that's what happened with the Miracle Seed. It took me 2.5 years to do this book. So
and you're also second generation Holocaust survivor.
Yes, I am. Yes.
So a few words about that. You've also written about it extensively.
Yes, my mother and father were Holocaust survivors. I never got my father's story so much. I mean, he did join the Russian army. I know that. But my mother's story, I know extensively. And I have if you want to hear a story about how I got her story, there were, in the candy store, we didn't have much decoration in the back.
Maybe we should have this about the candy store, and then I'll talk to you next week. This candy store is never ending.
Okay, so
Martin, I shouldn't be the one giving you ideas for books.
Okay, no, I do actually did a book on that, actually.
You have a book on the candy store on Martin?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay, great. I need to see that.
Okay, yeah, that. Yeah, but I'll make it short then. Okay, I'll make it short. Okay, so in any case, there were three needleworks in the back of the candy store, and that was the only thing on our walls. It was a peacock, a horse, and a house. The only thing I knew about it was made by my Baba Malka, my grandmother Malka. But my mother would never tell me about what happened. I knew she was a Holocaust survivor. It's in the DNA. You know it, but you don't know anything about it. So let's fast forward to like 1989, and I'm living in Allentown I was a professor in illustration and graphic design, and my mother's living in Far Rockaway, New York, and she's my father had passed away, and she
Sorry.
calls me up, and I say, how are you doing? And she said, okay. And well, then she says, not so okay. I hurt my foot. And I said, how'd you hurt your foot? And she said, well, I was making a chicken for Shabbos, and the frozen chicken fell on my foot. So I said, oh, and so how is it? And she said, oh, it's okay. It hurts a little. So then I told my wife this story, and she said, you better go and pick up your mother. And so I went to pick up my mother, and she did have a broken foot. And in Allentown, the doctor said she had to keep off her foot for about 6 weeks. And my mother never kept off her feet. When she was at our house, she would sweep and cook and clean and everything. And so I was yelling at her, you have to keep off your feet. And so how do you feel? It's like Jewish guilt. I'm screaming at a little old lady. I'm screaming at a Holocaust survivor. And I felt bad. So then I got this idea. And I said, Ma, now is the time for you to tell me the story about your life, not only about how you survived the Holocaust, but what was your life before? You know, what was your family? Because I didn't know the family at all. And so she said, no, who needs to know this? So I said, I need to know this. My brother, your son Bernard, my brother needs to know this. Your grandchildren, well, not your grandchildren need to know this. And so I gave her a little Jewish guilt too. And so then she said, okay, I'll do it. And I got a video camera out, the big VCR cameras. And she looked at it and she said, Vet is verstehen Yiddish? Will it understand Yiddish? So I said, Ma, vet verstehen Yiddish. It'll understand Yiddish. And so that's how I got her story. And I had
Wow. So it was from interviewing in Yiddish?
She said, no, if reden in English. And so she started speaking in English, but when she started to, and in the beginning, when she's talking about her life before the Holocaust, it was in English, in broken English. But when she started talking about the Holocaust, she couldn't, she started speaking in Yiddish. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And you have these tapes somewhere?
Yes, I do. Yeah, that's the basis of actually my first graphic memoir, Mendel's Daughter. Yes.
Which won awards?
Yes, it won awards. It was
translated into other languages.
Yes, in Polish, surprisingly, and French and Spanish. Yes.
So you are now. I'm going back now to the child, Martin the child, who
my wife still thinks I'm a child, but yes.
Well, I don't know whether you've listened to any of my video or podcasts, but I believe that we write to the age that we're stuck at.
Right, I think you're right.
So I write for 5 and 6 year olds, and I know that I'm stuck there.
Yes.
And the Miracle Seed is written for 7, 8 year olds. So I'm guessing that's where you're stuck.
Yeah, well, well, the Miracle Seed is 8 to like maybe 7 to 14 years old. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so keep going. Don't let me stop you.
Okay, where do you want me to be? That's for 35 years. I could just keep speaking. And my wife says, why do you keep lecturing? And I said, that's the nature of the beast. After a while, you start, was it mental shilshul?
Mental diarrhea.
Right.
Well, you're also talking to a professor, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But you're doing a great job, because some interviewees don't stop for air and you do. So it's perfect.
Okay.
You're doing really well. I really would like just to come over and give you a great big hug. And I might do someday. So here you're a kid and you love to draw. and they didn't tell you should go to law school or study medicine?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was the valedictorian in my school, and it was a yeshiva in high school. And when I told my friend, first of all, I couldn't tell my teachers, it was a yeshiva, that I wanted to go for art. And I went to Brooklyn College in the daytime. In my yeshiva, nobody went to school in the daytime. You went nighttime and you learned in the day. So I didn't tell them, but when I would tell my friends I was going to go for art, they would put their arm around, one guy would put his arm around me, I remember, and said, it's like I lost my mind. And so I never got, we never had art in school until I got into college. And so that was kind of an interesting experience for me. But it's something I wanted to do. And it's interesting, as you said, how they wanted me to be a doctor, like every Jewish mother. And even there was a time, I remember it clearly, in 1982, I was an assistant professor at a college. I was illustrating, I had illustrated for Esquire magazine, and I was doing, that was one of my first illustrations. And I had done work for, I was doing work fairly regularly for Sesame Street magazine. And my father says to me in Yiddish, okay, now that, you've come to this time, stop all this nonsense. I was an assistant professor. I will pay for pharmacy school. This is not a lie. So it was like, and he never acknowledged that this could be something of a career as being an artist, an illustrator. So he never understood it. And, I reconcile with that. My mother, on the other hand, also was not very happy with it. But one time, a couple of years later, I was speaking at a group. It might have been like a Hadassah group. I don't even remember, at a JCC or something. And she was visiting at the time, and she listened to my PowerPoint presentation about some of the things I was doing. And she said, Matel, I didn't know you did that stuff. That's really wonderful. So I said, yeah, thanks. This was when I was maybe in my 40s or something, So very interesting, very interesting.
But it's good as eternal kids to have this reconciliation at some stage with our parents.
Yeah. Well,
so were you able to reconcile with your dad?
Well, there wasn't not a question of reconciliation. I mean, it was like, that's the way it is. It is what it is, it's, what can you do? You always, everybody wants, praise from their parent. I mean, my children, I say something 40 years ago, they said, you said that to me. And I said, did I really say that to you? And I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, So everybody wants praise, and but you learn, you grow. So
my son Martin, he could have been such a doctor.
Right.
He had such great marks in school.
Yes.
What does he do?
Well, let me tell you about that. I was really good, but my mother, I would get 98s on a test, and so what would she say to me?
What happened to the other 2 marks?
That's 100% what she would say to me. Why didn't you get 100%? It's not like, whoa, this kid is nice, smart.
Actually, I was worse than you because my parents didn't even have to say that.
Oh, really? Why?
Well, I don't know. Martin, this interview is about you. So, but you had the seichel, you had the good sense to study art in college, or?
Yeah, I studied art in college.
And you got accepted?
Yes. And the problem with that is I was actually in a new talent show when I was like right at my senior year in college on Madison Avenue in New York City. And I got nicely reviewed in like the Village Voice and some other art news. And I sold I sold a piece, and then I said, I don't want to give this away. And so I didn't sell it. And it was like, what? You're not, so it was like, what do? I do a painting. I want to make money on it, but I don't want to get rid of it. So that's really it's a horrible way to make a living, And I won't bore you with the details, but I had a story where somebody recommended I become an illustrator. I didn't know what it was. I mean, everybody knows Norman Rockwell, but I didn't know what an illustrator was. And so I put together a portfolio of black and white pieces, and they said, go and show your pieces to art directors. I said, okay, I didn't know. And I did, and I got some work. I didn't know what I was doing, but I got some work. So
and you got to keep the originals afterwards.
I paint, yes, I got to keep my stuff. So this was like really something. That's really something. And it actually was good at some point. I did this book called The Tattoo Torah, and it was a book I did in 1994. And so recently, one of my lasted projects from 2018 came out, I think, in 2019. They wanted to make a movie out of it with Ed Asner being the narrator. And the director called me up and, do you have the originals? And I said, yes, I do have all the originals. And so that was the beginning of, and I did another 100 paintings, over 100 paintings for that. But the originals were there, and they used the originals in the movie as well. So it was good that, because when the Tattoo Tour came out in the beginning, there were a couple of people who wanted to buy originals. And I said, no, I don't really want to sell them. So that was a kind of, serendipity. So.
And how did you and so you've been illustrating for decades?
Yes. Yeah.
And how did you break into becoming an author? Briefly, because we want to go back to the Miracle Seed.
Yes, I broke.
I'm having too much fun. We can go on for hours.
Yeah, no, it was with my mother's story. Okay, it was like I was reaching an age where I need, I was doing illustrations, but I decided I don't need. I mean, everybody needs the money, but I thought I need to do something for myself, alone. And so, I needed to tell this story, and I did it not so much that initially to tell, to get it published. I really did do it for my children, did the Mendel's Daughter for my children. And I didn't know how to do something like this, but I decided that I would give it a shot. And the impetus of that is I had classes in illustration at Kutztown University, where I was teaching in Pennsylvania. And I told my students about it. And every once in a while, they would say, Mr. Lemelman, how's your book coming? And so it would give me, it was such a gargantuan task for me. But because I had this, guilt is a very good thing for me. And it was like, oh no, I have to do this because they keep asking me, and I have to do it because they're interested, and I can't let them down. And so I did the book that way. And again, I didn't anticipate it being published, but
how did that happen?
It happened more easily than I thought. I sent out the book to a number of agents, and usually they say wait 6 or 8 weeks or nothing will happen. Within a week, I had 2 agents calling me for the book, to be an agent for the book, and I picked one of them, and the book was sold fairly quickly after that.
That is the same agent you have today?
No, it's a different agent. Yeah, for that.
So look.
But the agent I had was not a children's book agent.
Mm-hmm.
It's so. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but you do realize the chance of agents coming back to you with a first book is like 1 in a zillion.
Yeah, no, that's what
yeah,
threw me for a loop. You know, it's
one in
like,
one in several thousand, really, for
yeah. Well,
a novice author.
I went to interview my agents, which was like, oh my God, what is going on here? So,
So that was your introduction into the
right.
world of authorship.
With everything I do, I don't know how to do anything. So somehow I plopple through it, you know. So that's what
Well,
happens.
what verb did you use? You plopple through it?
Yeah.
Is that a word in English?
I just met, yes, it's a Yinglish word, a
To
Yinglish.
plopple. So I just ploppled through things.
Yes.
I've been in Israel.
You're
too
allowed
long.
to use it. I'm allowing you to use it. Right.
Okay, and everybody's listening.
Right.
So Martin, let's plopple on here and get to your wonderful new miracle book, The Miracle Seed.
Yes.
So how did that happen? Tell us about the seed.
Yeah. Okay. That, I mean, to me, that was an amazing thing. I had finished the Tattoo Torah, and I was reading an article, and I don't remember if it was in the National Geographic or the New York Times or someplace, about these scientists who found a seed on Yigal Yadin had unearthed all these things on Masada, and there was and I had read his book originally like 25 years ago, I mean, or 30 years ago, which was fascinating. So I knew the story of the excavation of Masada by Yigal Yadin. So I read
one second. For our listeners and viewers who don't know the story, Masada is this desert fortress originally built by King Herod, where it was the last stand of the Jews against the Romans, and Yigal was Yigal Yadin was the chief archaeologist who uncovered many things, including and so they found those seeds back in the 60s or something.
They found the seeds in the 60s, and so they found different things. Okay, they found thousands of coins, and they found I mean, I have it in the book here. They found clothing, and they found let me just take this away here. They found weapons, and they found scrolls, and they found oil lamps, and they also found a jar with 6 date palm seeds, Judean date seeds. So that then they took those seeds and they put them in a drawer someplace at a university in Tel Aviv, and forgot about them for 40 years. Okay, so they were just kind of forgotten about.
Now that's if it's Tel Aviv University, then that's the par for the course, you know.
Oh yeah. Again, let me, for sure, Bar Ilan University.
Bar Ilan, same.
Yes, okay. So it was in Bar Ilan University, and then Dr. Sarah Salon, who worked at the Hadassah Hospital, who was a scientist there, and she was interested in studying ancient cures and stuff. And so she decided, she heard that the Judean date palm was known for A, its sweetness, and B, it could cure diseases. And she was doing, studies on other things, ancient cures. And so she decided, well, why don't I give it a try and see if we can get something out of it? And she went and looked, and she found these seeds. She got the authority, the Israel Archaeological Authority, to let her have some of the seeds. And she gave them to Dr. Elaine Soloway. And she said, could you make these grow? And Dr. Soloway said, it's like, how do you make something 2,000 years old grow? If you know the type, what makes up a seed is made up of 3 parts, okay? And I try to do this in the book so it's clear to children. And also I've been getting it from adults. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know. They made it interesting and also simple. And that was my goal in this book, to make something not only instructional, but inspirational in a way. And so the seed is the seed covering that protects the seed. Then's the embryo of the seed where it'll grow. And then there's the food. And of course, after 2,000 years, the expiration date on the food is pretty old, is gone. But she actually, through doing bathing it in seaweed and doing all sorts of things, she actually made a seed grow. Okay, and that was the first seed was Methuselah, and that was the beginning of this extinct Judean date palm coming back and getting reborn after at least
Methuselah, according to the Gershwins, lived 900 years.
Right.
I think exactly. he lived 969 or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And this date seed lasted almost 2,000 years.
Right, exactly. Yes.
And she succeeded in germinating it. And to make a long story short, because I want to talk a little bit about the book. No, I like this is you're supposed to continue now. To make a long story short,
she did it, but the thing was, it started to grow, and one of the things is it started to grow, then it started to die again. So that in terms of like the idea of being creative is not only about being creative as an artist or writer. I think creativity is in all fields, and that's the exciting thing. And so Dr. Soloway was very creative, and she tried to figure out how do we make it live again, because it's the leaves are yellowing and stuff. And she figured out that the water that they were using in the Araba Institute was like agricultural water, and it was too alkaline. And so they used a different kind of water. And then Methuselah started to grow beautifully. At the time when they did it, they didn't have like DNA that we have now. So they didn't know if it was a male or a female. So it came to be, it started to flower. It had an efflorescence, which is the flower. And they realized Methuselah is a boy. And so
it's a boy.
It's a boy.
You have to have a bris.
Yes, I know. But
we have to find a bride for Methuselah.
I know, that's the thing. I did not know, and you learn these things as you do the research, is a lot of trees don't need male and female trees. The apple tree, I don't think needs a male and female, but a date palm needs a male and female. And so I had ended the book a couple of years ago. And I said, well, it has pollinated. The pollen is good because the pollen has been shared with other places in the world. And even in the Arab countries, we're using its pollen to pollinate. But there wasn't a Judean date palm generation that could pollinate and create pure Judean date palm dates. And so so I had ended the book that way, with hopefully one day there will be date palm. And then I read and I talked to email Dr. Soloway, and said, yeah, we have Hannah, another date palm that's even older than Methuselah by a little bit. It was found in a cave, I think near Jericho, and what do you call it? And they grew it, and it's growing well, and it flowered, and they pollinated it by hand. And Mazel Tov, there are dates. And and I think the first
Martin, maybe this is where the original word of going on a date comes from.
That's right. Yeah, I gotten you. Yeah,
Oh,
right.
sorry. They had a date.
I know.
So they had a date. And from this date, miraculously was born.
And they had the first harvest was 111 dates. And the two scientists, Dr. Soloway and Dr. Salon, tasted the date, and it was sweet and nutty, and tasted, and it was tasted for the first time in 1,000 years. So to me, that is a miracle. It's a miracle, and it's a story about hope also. And I think that I think
hold on a second, almost 2,000 years, no?
Well, eventually it was the seed itself was in Masada 2,000 years ago. 1,000 years after that, they're not sure how the date palm was totally extinct. The Romans destroyed a lot of the date palms and the things, but they're not sure whether it was when the Crusades came and they also destroyed it, or whether it was global warming at the time. So they're not sure why, but
at least 1,000 years since it had been on a date.
1,000 years since.
Imagine going 1,000 years without having a date.
I know. It causes a lot of anxiety. Yes.
So you have turned this miracle seed into a miracle story.
Right.
And you have at some stage you found a wonderful agent.
Yeah. Anna Olswanger, very good agent, really very helpful, very a great person to work with. Yes.
And she sold it to Erdmans?
Yes. And they've been really nice and wonderful people to work with. Kathleen Merz, who is the editor, is a great editor, and Holly Hoover is a really wonderful art director, and she helped me with stuff, as well.
So as somebody who writes but doesn't illustrate, this is a very intricate book.
Yes.
So many illustrations on each page, and so much art research to be done. What happens when you're in the middle of it? You say, what happens if this doesn't get picked up?
It doesn't matter to me. Okay, when I do something, I don't do it because I want it to be published. I do it because I'm dedicated to it and interested in it. And as I said, the essence of it is what I like. The idea of writing. And just when I was a little kid and painting, I wasn't thinking I'm going to put it on a wall someplace. I just wanted to do the thing. And just to tell you, some of the things, going to a yeshiva is very essence in the way I do my illustrations and writing, and actually the way I taught stuff, because I want an illustration not only to illustrate the words, but to enhance the words in some way. And let me show you what I mean by that. Here it's after the defeat of the Rome. I'm just going to read it to you and just look at that picture there. After the defeat by the Romans, the Jewish people were scattered throughout the world. They lived in every country, a people with no land to call their own. They endured terrible trials, yet through it all, they survived. And so on this page, I have the Arch of Titus, where they sacked the temple in Jerusalem. And on that same page, I have the Jewish people becoming their own menorah. And so it's not only illustrating the words, but enhancing the words. And a lot of the things, and a lot of times when I tell this to people, they say, oh, I didn't see that. And in a way, it doesn't matter for me to tell people, for people to see it, it's important to me to do that. Okay. And one of the things also about, being a yeshiva student was that in the Torah, they say every word counts. And so I don't write a lot of, flowery language. It's simple. I try to make it clear. I try to make it exciting and informational. So that's also, so it's not really wordy, but the words and some people ask me, do you write first or do you do the illustrations first? So first I write a draft, and then after the draft I start doing pagination. I put the page, the writing on each page that I think, and then I start drawing. And then I change the words because of the drawing. So it's more of a dance between the writing and the art, as opposed to this is first and then I do this. It goes back and forth. I can write a sentence literally 25 times, if not more. And an illustration, I don't think I would do 25 times, but I do at least 5 or 6 times to begin with before I start the final. So, and to me, a lot of people, oh, that's really tedious, but to me, that is the excitement of the thing, to discover the essence. And again, I don't say it's perfect, but it's as perfect as I can make it. Yeah.
This has been wonderful. I'm going to say something in Yiddish, and I'm not going to translate it. The Leben auf dein Kopf.
Okay, thank you.
And this has been, you're a miracle seed. Was kann ich sagen?
Was kann ich sagen? Schönen Dank.
Schönen Dank to you also. So I'm really moved. You've given me goosebumps during this interview, and I hope that when you come to taste date number 432,
right? Okay.
You'll stop by Tel Aviv, and we'll grab a coffee, and I can give you a great big hug.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. It's a date. Okay, thank you very much. And thank
you.
Of
course, it's a date.
That's right.
It's a miracle date.
Right. Thank you.
A date. So this has been a wonderful interview. At least, I'm giving myself here a 98. No.
No. The Hasnish Svei more points.
What happened to the other two?
Right.
So Martin Lemelman, congratulations on your brand new book, The Miracle Seed, just out with Erdmann. And I hope that this book also takes flower. Can you say that in English? That's not very good English. Takes flower. It flowers. It flowers and blooms.
Thank you.
And you win a lot of prizes, and it's translated into many, many languages, including Yiddish.
I would like to have it translated into Hebrew. That would be really an honor. I mean, I would really something else.
Speak to me.
Okay.
So speak to me. Let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah, talk to my agent.
Actually, I would love to interview your agent. So ask her if maybe we can do both at the same time.
Okay, sure. Okay, I will tell her.
If she'll speak to somebody like me who's only an author and cannot draw a stick figure.
Okay, sure.
Martin, this has been wonderful. And I'm Mel Rosenberg. What am I? I'm the host of the Children's Literature Channel of the New Books Network. And I've been speaking to the wonderful, miraculous Martin Lemelman, and about his life, his career, his thoughts, and his new book, The Miracle Seed, out by Erdmann. It's been wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
Schönen Dank.
Thank you to you too.
Gesund und stark. And,
Okay.
and I'll practice my Yiddish so we can have the next one in Yiddish. In Mameloschen.
I had Zerbrochene Yiddish.
Zerbrochene.
Yeah.
I don't get 98 for my Yiddish, that's for sure.
No, I get a 50 myself. Okay, take care.
It's been wonderful. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. Bye.